what sort of other challenges can we look forward to at ISE or Infocom or any of those shows?
My idea is a little extreme now, hearing other people's views.
No, let's go.
I was going to go with like the Apprentice AV.
Yeah, so if we do the Apprentice or something, who gets to fire people?
Oh, Labuscus.
Of course.
100%. Labuscus.
This could be a trap.
You say that like there's a second possibility?
The end of 4K, recategorizing AV and skills challenges for end users. All that and more next on AV Week. This is AV Week, episode 664, recorded Friday, May 10th, 2024. AV applications. This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of the biggest news and information we have gathered. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to discuss the news and information we have gathered this week. First and foremost, a young lady who stayed up very, very late to talk to us, and we're very appreciative, all the way from UK, Jenny Hicks from Midwich. Welcome, ma'am.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for staying up and for joining us. Also with us is the host of our AVNation's State of Control podcast, Ask the Programmer, and he also owns a company called Control Concepts. Steve Greenblatt, welcome, sir.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Oh, good to see you. And last but not least, an also dear friend of mine, Michael Peebler from Atlas ID. Welcome, sir.
Thanks, sir. Thank you. And I just want to start off today. Tim's given me a little bit of latitude here. I just want to send out my thoughts and condolences. Many of us in the industry lost a very dear friend last week. And so hate to start off on a sad note, but would be absolutely remiss to not mention Jeff Kindig. Jeff was the vice president of marketing at AMX and at Harman for a number of years. Jeff did a ton of work in NSCA with the Education Foundation and a number of other groups. And unfortunately, we lost Jeff a week ago. And for those of us who worked with him, and I worked with him for 17 years, but I'm one of so many people that can tell you story upon story. It's a big, big loss. So just want to send out my love and thoughts to everybody who is struggling. If you feel like I do, you probably still are a little bit. There's still tears just kind of right behind everything. And so for those who know Jeff, you'll appreciate this, but, celebrate his life, have dessert first. And he was kind of famous for sitting down after a long, hard day of a trade show setup and ordering dessert for the entire table before anybody got any food, and many, many other things. But Jeff was a great person, a great influence, a great father, a great husband, and we're gonna miss him. So make sure you guys take care of yourself out there, and if it feels weird, get it checked out.
Absolutely. Jeff was a great guy. Last time he came by the NSCA BLC this past year, and wasn't the last time I talked to him, but the last time I got to see him in person. So yeah, absolutely wonderful human being. First story then we are doing is recategorizing the AV industry. This is from Ryan Penny over on AV Magazine. Penny writes an article and argues that the traditional segments in the pro AV market may no longer be effective in meeting the diverse needs of modern venues. More venues offer a wide variety of programming, from concerts and conferences, retail displays, outdoor events. The lines between traditional markets have kind of blurred. The article suggests that instead of categorizing loudspeakers into specific segments, maybe we should focus on the acoustic challenges and commercial goals of the venue, which can be broadly clustered into live speech, experimental, and applications. This approach, along with the development of a scalable and adaptable sound system, could help simplify choices for customers and better address the evolving needs of the rapidly changing industry. Now, this is something that we at AVNation struggle with and are currently wrestling with. Not to get too much into the back end, but we're looking at restructuring our menus, right? And the question is, what do you call AV over IP? What do you call loudspeakers? What do you call programming? And I'm doing that on or control. I do that for Steve, right? Because today's IT manager, they know what a speaker is generically, and what's the difference between a loudspeaker and a ceiling speaker. To them, nothing. Analog audio comes out of a cone, right? So the question's valid, and Penny writes is running. He's from Holoplot, so he's running more from the speaker manufacturer standpoint. But this really goes overarching. What is UC? Well, 20 years ago, UCC, Unified Communications and Collaboration, was something different than what it is today. So Greenblatt, we're going to start with you on this. How would we set about recategorizing AV?
I like what was proposed, and I think carrying on with what you said in terms of the applications that you're using, or the way the space is going to, the way that the people are going to interact with the space, I think is probably the answer to that. But I think the fact is that this isn't just limited to these venues that are being discussed in the article, but more so it's also the corporate spaces there, and even home spaces. That there's so much being done with a particular area, either condensing footprint for a corporate entity, or even in a home where you need to have a media room and a home theater, or this idea that we are going to have more dedicated spaces that need to have a particular label on them, I think it is something in the past. And plus also those that are outside of our industry don't understand what some of these things are anyway. So we have to start thinking more toward the consumer or the user or the whatever that end client is, and use their language in terms of what they are looking to achieve and they're expecting out of what we're putting in as the AV professionals.
Michael, I'm going to bring this to you, because you and Jenny have different unique perspectives. Michael works for Atlas IAD as a manufacturer, Jenny at Midwich, the distributor, right? So Michael, from your guys' standpoint, you are not only trying to appeal and connect with the dealers, the people that are actually putting these things in, but we're talking about Infocom all the time, right?
Sure.
At the end of it, Jenny and you will give your booth numbers. 30 to 35% of that audience are end users. They're IT managers, they're tech managers. And so they're going to walk into the Atlas IAD booth. How then should we set about recategorizing and I guess renaming is the best way to put this, products and markets and segments to where they can understand it in their day-to-day life?
Yeah, I think there's a technicality here, and that is how we talk about it inside the industry within the dealer channels and technical channels that are there, right? I mean, the audio industry, look, I came from the control side for many years where we tried to get people to forget about the latest thing that they had because they needed the newest thing that we had, right? Audio, the rules of acoustics, physics, they don't really change. So, products that are 15, 17 years old, it's like, well, they still sound great. So, so I think the way we talk about them internally and the way we talk to customers about them have to be different. And that, to me, is what I took from the article. So I'll give a simple example. We sell a steerable line array, a digital steerable line array solution. People look at that and they go, oh, well, would I use that for music? We always talk about the fact that this product is going to be speech oriented. You're going to put that in a higher education facility. You're going to put that in a house of worship so that you can more clearly understand the speaker, right? And if they want to, if it's a house of worship facility and they want to have a live band venue within the, for the alternative service or whatever it is, they call it, great. That there's probably going to be a different audio system that's used for that, right? Because it's a different purpose. And so when we're talking to a customer and to a large degree when we're educating a dealer or a reseller, we're going to emphasize the use case and the application of the product. And that, I think, fits the modern categorization. So if you come in the booth, you're going to see what the product is called, but we're going to all talk about it in the way that it is going to be used from an application standpoint. And I think that's, there are differences. That's the reason we have different names for stuff. But I agree 100% that us taking that and passing it on to the customer is a mistake. They just want to know what problem do you solve and how do you solve it. And that's a language issue on our part.
Jenny is shaking her head if you're not watching the video, so I'm just going to let her go.
I 100% agree. So I saw through this article, and it's nothing against Holoplot. So I think that, if you look at their journey, they released the X1 product. It was clearly designed to be used in large venue for challenging experiential spaces, and it's fantastic. No one can take that away from them. They've done something much quicker than we thought could be achieved. Great. They're now coming to market very shortly with the X2 in terms of having stock. And what they're trying to do is position it as the product that can do anything. And that's really where this article was going. I have a product that can be programmed to suit any environment. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. That's great. And I think that the X2 will do very well. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to erase all other loudspeakers and other audio and redefine the industry. There are many, many flexible spaces now. That is different to how things used to be. And it's great that we have some of these new products entering the market that can cater to the changing needs of those spaces. That doesn't mean that we don't have venues that are built and used for the same purpose all of the time. And exactly like you just said, our end customers want to, number one, come to the integrator for their expertise, and let's not write them out of this. And number two, be told, this product is right for your application because, and here's a bunch of examples of people who used it before you to give you that sense of security. So they're free to go and redefine the industry as much as they want. I battle the AVIXA US terminology versus European terminology. I spend my life translating. No, they call that this and we call it that. That's never going away. So there's room for everyone. It's a fantastic USP that they have a product that can be programmed to be used in many different ways. But that's time consuming. And some people don't want that. Some people want the right product that they've worked with before, especially in the pro space. These guys are, it's semi-cult like. They have their lighting brands, their loudspeaker brands, their microphone brands. The artists have their set brands as well. I don't see us changing anything in the near to short term.
Just because I'm morbidly curious, Jenny, can you give me an example of a US versus UK terminology that you have continued to fight?
So there's a few, like you have so we call technical video would be anything that is connectivity and control systems, which you guys usually would refer to as signal distribution and control. Okay. So yeah, there's a first one that comes to mind, and there's a few others, but they're not limited to Europe and UK versus US. It's companies as well. People self-define when they're within their own business.
Yeah, I was just going to go back real quick to your UCC example and just simply say that most of the products that I see sold in UCC, they may talk about the fact that it's a UCC product, but they're going to call it a conferencing product because that's what people in that space are generally going to do. And that's the application, that's the use case. So I think a lot of people are already doing this. I don't think this is a new idea to most people.
No, I would agree with that. And having just come back, Enterprise Connect back in March, that was the same. I mean, it's labeled as a UC show. Well, darn near everything on there, with the exception of the call center folks, it was a conferencing show, right? Nothing wrong with it. It's just that is who is showing. So, all right. Our next story is AV challenges. Kordz has announced this week that it's expanding its Termination Challenge event to CEDIA Tech and Business summits worldwide. This is a hands-on competition that allows systems integrators to test their cabling termination skills. The challenge not only provides an interactive and engaging way for attendees to improve their skills and potentially win prizes, obviously, from Kordz, which is the sponsoring manufacturer. Kordz, of course, they make cables and cords. Kordz is, in this case, is spelled with a K and a Z. Termination Challenge seems to be fairly popular and is scheduled to take place at various CEDIA Tech and Business Summits and CEDIA Expo throughout 2024. Mr. Peebler, first question to you is what other challenges should we see, not just at CEDIA? Obviously, that's a residential show, but at Infocom coming up in a month from now, at ISC, at some of these other shows that we all bounce around to?
You know, I thought a lot about this. First of all, I love this idea. I mean, I love hands-on. I think that's really cool. So many booths are museums. You can't really touch anything, you know, sometimes because it's still super glued together, right? So
and it's under glass.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I love the hands-on aspect of the article and the idea. The challenge that I have with this is that very rarely when I'm talking to an integrator that's at a show like Infocom, do they have their install team there. They've got their salespeople there. They've got their leadership. They might have someone from the install team, but the guys that are actually out doing the work that the Kordz Challenge is, you know, as an example, is focused on, very rarely. I can see them being at a regional, smaller, one-day event. A big national, a lot of times, you know, the integrators are challenged sometimes on how many people they bring and that kind of stuff. But look, you could do, and by the way, kudos to them and to all the companies who actually think about the installer when they design a product, because that is a rarity. There are so many people who never take into consideration. Steve's got a smile on his face. He knows what I'm talking about. So rarely do people think about how easy is this going to be able to access, to work with, to mount, to do whatever. It's one of the things I think we do really well, is that there's a big consideration in that with all the products. And I've been in integrators' offices before where they had a challenge between, you know, we have a quick mount speaker piece, they call them dog legs, but you know, I've been in dealers before where they've had a contest to see who can install this particular speaker faster than one a traditional way and see what the difference is. But it's still about the quality of work, the safety of the installation, the ease of access, all those things, not just how fast can we get in and out of the job, which is obviously an important consideration. So I think the other kind of challenges would have to be hands-on kinds of stuff. I don't know, Steve, do you think we could have a programmer off to see who could write code the fastest or something? I don't know. Who could sell something to an end user the fastest?
Yeah, I wish that I could tell you. I think it would be hard to judge.
We can stopwatch. Jenny, same kind of question is, you know, what sort of things, Jenny's obviously we said that she's in the UK. You know, England has a number of local events there, both in London and around. Obviously, we've got ISC, which is pretty Eurocentric. Mm-hmm. What other sort of challenges or competitions could we see there?
Yeah, so we see this a little bit, usually from you know, mount and bracket manufacturers will set a challenge on their booths to say, you know, who and time people for a 2x2 video wall install and similar. Internally, we've done this with our staff. Being in distribution, you can be a bit further, you know, you're away from the manufacturer and you're away from the integrator. So we've had workshops for LED install. We've had workshops for create a signage template and then publish it and so on, and which are all good fun, but I don't know that they necessarily suit Infocom. I took this way too far. My idea is a little extreme now, hearing other people's views.
No, let's go.
I was going to go with like the Apprentice AV. So that you would have project managers could compete in the lead up to Infocom. And then once you get to Infocom, there's a final challenge and they have their team and they PM and they design and then it gets judged.
All right, Mr. Greenblatt, same kind of question is what sort of other challenges can we look forward to at ISC or Infocom or any of those shows?
So I did think about it a little bit. How about a hackathon? That could be one thing where there could be
similar to what they do at Crestron Masters.
Yeah, but what's nice about that is also thinking about coming up with new creative ideas of how to use products, or maybe how to add functionality to products, or expand the capabilities so that those who would be able to win would actually also provide benefit to either the sponsor or the participants, I guess, that would put on the event.
That could go horribly wrong, no? Like if it was hacked and corrupted within the first 2 minutes. That's really
Yeah, I guess
damaging.
it's probably a tough term.
I like the chaos.
Yeah, so if we do the apprentice or something, who gets to fire people?
Oh, Labuscus.
Of course.
100%. Labuscus. I can't. I'm not even going to try to do an imitation of Dave. That's just not right. No, nobody wants me to fire them. All right, here we go. Last story. Is it the end of 4K? In a surprising move, the upcoming Champions League final and Euro 2024 football tournament. Football is soccer for us big dumb Americans. It will be produced in 1080p HD HDR, which stands for high dynamic range, instead of 4K UHD. This marks a shift away from 4K production for major sports broadcasts. According to IBC, the International Broadcasting Convention, a report by them, the main reason for this downgrade is a lack of interest from broadcasters and rights holders, as well as the marginal visual improvement offered by 4K UHD compared to full HD HDR. The cost of upgrading equipment and studios for 4K production is not being offset by increased subscription, as viewers are largely unwilling to pay a premium. I'm sorry, I am laughing at this. For a higher resolution broadcast, this change in delivery format is expected to simplify technical production for broadcasters. I am laughing for two reasons. Number one, I am 100% the guy, the person that says the more Ks, the better. I am 100% that guy. I will absolutely own it. I want to see a 16K, direct view LED. Absolutely. I also want to see the content for it, right? That is 100% the other side of that. And the fact that viewers aren't buying into it is a little amusing to me, I guess is the best way to put this. Jenny, we're going to start with you on this. Have we, what is going on here? Like, is it really the end users? Is it really the consumers that are saying, this is not for us, right? We don't care. This is fine. 1080 is fine, right? Which reminds me of my 75-year-old dad who 30 years ago said 480 is fine.
I think it's, there's a bit more to it than that. So I think that if everyone was watching on a home television screen or in a bar or a venue, absolutely, they would see the benefit. But the reality is that a significant amount of the viewers for sports now is on a mobile device. And often, whilst doing something else and wandering around. And I do think that this plays a massive part in it. So it's not a refusal to pay or a lack of recognition of the benefit. It's simply, I'm not viewing it on that platform. So they're not even being asked, if that makes any sense. There's such a shift in viewership when it comes to sports, particularly for football in Europe. Soccer, sorry. So I've got two minds in this. So I see that there's been frustration with people trying to watch on mobile devices because of the bandwidth increase and so on. They don't get the benefit, but they do get the difficulties that come with it. And then I also see the longer term effect of this, that if any more industries follow suit, what happens is that we don't see mass production of 4K display and connectivity and streaming kit that goes with it. Thus, the price remains high and we don't move forward the way that we're supposed to following tech evolution. So that annoys me because I think that 4K and above is incredibly necessary for signage content, particularly in food and fashion and so on. And it's huge for us in cinema as well. But I think it's just a change of culture. We've stopped watching sports in home cinemas with surround sound and big screens, and we now watch it whilst on the move.
Steve, same kind of question. You've been around the industry a long time, and you watched the original HDs come out. So, where are we at with this push to multiple Ks?
So the idea kind of reminds me of the fact that you buy based on benefits, not features. So this kind of demonstrates that when if the consumer isn't seeing and noticing the difference, like Jenny's saying, and they're not really gaining much more from it, then we've gotten to a point where we may have maxed out for the average person. However, again, we should be evolving. Our industry wants there to be new and greater and bigger and more capable, because that's what we do, and that drives sales and opportunities. But we have to think again about the people consuming, and if they're not noticing the difference, then that kind of drives the market.
Michael, as somebody who is a longtime fan of Crystal Palace and watching from, he is.
That's all right. Hottest team in the EPL right now.
And obviously, so Michael is here in the States, right? Central time zone with me. So watching, Premier League is not easy. It's very early on a Sunday morning or a Saturday morning typically. But as somebody who does, obviously, you watch a lot of sports, and looking at this change, I guess the question here is when do we pull back, I guess, as an industry from pushing this multiple, 8K and beyond? Or is this is a segment of consumers that, like Jenny says, they're watching on smaller screens, but there are other cases where digital signage and healthcare, right, where you're looking at medical imaging, the 8K and beyond still makes sense.
Yeah, I think Jenny nailed it. Actually, she's dead on. There's so many times I'm watching here, right? It's because I like to get to the pub and watch the matches there, but there are times that my wife has other plans for me, the kids have other stuff going on, and I've got to be wherever, and I'm probably not going to miss the game best I can. So I'm going to be watching, and look, I'm buying an app. Through a network here in the U.S. and then it's streaming over wireless. And I mean, the reality is I can't guarantee the quality of what I would get no matter what. And then you've got to realize that the audience for this isn't, for this particular event or these two events, this isn't just, Western Europe and North America where we have the infrastructure. This is all over the world in small villages and in places where, and you see it. I mean, you see it being a Premier League fan, how many people are wearing, kit from a team in little bitty villages in the middle of nowhere. And, they're lucky to hear it on the radio, much less stream it on a TV. So I can see why the benefit, the benefit of the feature wouldn't make enough of a difference. You just want to watch the match, right? So I think she's right. To your question, Tim, I don't know that we're going to back off. I mean, the Olympics are still going to be in 4K and all these other big events coming up. The NFL is still going to be doing everything in 4K. They're using and doing more with it, right? We see the networks really utilizing the clarity and everything that they have there. And we're not paying for it most of the time unless you're paying for a YouTube TV or something else, but you're not just doing that for sports, right? You're doing that for everything you watch, and you're watching it on a larger format display most of the time. And for unique applications like healthcare and digital signage and stuff like that, which now, again, we're back to very big established markets that have infrastructure, right? It makes sense because there's a benefit to it that makes a difference. But for this in particular, when I read it, it didn't surprise me at all because it's talking about, just watching football, which I love to do. But it wouldn't make sense there's no guarantee that I'm watching on 4K no matter where I'm watching it.
There's more at play here as well, right? So with the Premier League, there's over the last couple of years, this huge shift of who has the rights to broadcast which games. And they've ended up spread across, 4 or 5 different channel options for us, 2 of which are not easily available on most of our satellite and cable and smart TV screening. So actually, they've forced us onto mobile devices for some of the games. Whereas if you went back, say, COVID and before, for us, it was Sky Sports and then BT Sports was the other. And you only needed those 2 channels and you could watch everything. We now have Amazon Prime streaming some of the games and so on. So people have no choice but to watch on their mobile devices. I would say that the football industry has caused some of this themselves. And actually, we will reach a point where probably a lot of the kit that they're talking about reverting to right now will be obsolete and they'll be forced back over to 4K anyway. And equally at the same time, across Europe, we'll probably have a stronger 5G network, will cope with the higher resolution anyway, and it will naturally find its way. So they're just sort of taking one step backwards for a while, I think, and then they will rejoin the common resolution of 4K later on.
All righty. Really quick, dumb side note. I don't pay attention to who's on these podcasts until I email them, and I email them the Tuesday before. And I just think it's funny and very serendipitous that Mr. Peebler was on, and we're talking about, European football because he is such a huge fan. So I just thought it was cool. All right, that's it. Mr. Greenblatt, thank you, sir. How do people connect with you or Control Concepts?
You can reach me personally at Steve Greenblatt on social media, my company Control Concepts at controlconcepts.net, and also, as you mentioned before, the State of Control podcast with my co-host and partner, Rich Fregosa, as well as the Ask the Programmer podcast with James King. So always talking about programming.
A recent AVNation icon.
Yes. Always talking about programming and control.
If you don't know what that is, it's a monthly feature that our buddy Patrick Norton writes up and interviews end users in the industry. So check that out. Mr. Peebler, thank you, sir. How do people connect with you or Atlas IED?
Yeah, atlasIED.com is the website. We're on social on Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook, so you can find us there. I'm on LinkedIn as well, just Michael Peebler. There's not a lot of us out there. I think there's 2 of us, to be blunt. If I look like an old doctor in Kentucky, that's not me. So I'm the other one. Or it's just michael.peebler at atlasIED.com. And then booth, we are in the central hall at Infocom, and our booth is 8634, and our demo room is about a 5-minute walk away. So we'd love to see anybody that's in Vegas.
Absolutely. We will see them on the June 12th through the 14th. We'll also see Jenny Hicks because the letter in the country. So how can we connect with you, with Midwich, and come by your booth?
So you can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, as at Midwich Jenny. You can search Jenny Hicks on LinkedIn. You'll find loads. So go with the one that looks like me. And then if you are headed to Infocom, I will be on the Starren booth, which is Central Hall as well, 8022.
All right, very good. Thank you all so much. For Tim Albright, don't follow me anywhere because I'm not very interesting. I'm still celebrating the Chicago Bears draft, but go by the website if you would, please. AVNation.tv. It's AVNation.tv. You'll find this program and a host of others, including a brand spanking new State of Control, so you can check that out. We are also heading to Infocom. You can go by the website, avnation.tv/Infocom-24 for all of our coverage. Our excellent producer, Mitchell, is working his fingers to the bone, producing all of the previews that we've got coming down the pipeline. And then, of course, we'll be headed to Vegas June 12th to the 14th. We are doing the Tweet Up, which is June 12th from 4 to 6 in the West Hall. You can find that information as well on the website. So all that and more at avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching, as all the time we have for AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.